Rahm Emanuel has had a decades-long career in public service. Three-time Democratic congressman from Illinois, chief of staff to President Obama, then two-term mayor of Chicago. His stint as mayor has clearly had a major impact on him, as he's just written a new book about how people who run cities are essentially running the world. It's called The Nation City, and I recently sat down with Emanuel to discuss it. Rahm, you write in one part in the book that the opportunities in our cities are facilitated now by our mayors, who run the only governments left in the world that are immediate, intimate, and impactful. Give an idea to the folks listening what are the issues you don't need Springfield or Washington to lift a finger that you can unilaterally change, assuming you get buy-in from the city legislators to get things done?
Well, first of all, when you think about where you live, where you work, you look at a city, you look at the libraries, the schools, the parks, the transportation, the safety, and those are all services that are delivered from a local government. So it is the most impactful in the way you go about your life and you live your life. In addition to that, take one thing out of Chicago. We added 4 years of educational time to a child's life. Universal full-day pre-K, universal full-day kindergarten, an hour and a half to every day in the city, and if you get a B average in high school, community college, transportation and books, free. All that added up to 4 more years of educational time. Now, in Chicago, unlike New York, almost 83% of the kids are poverty or below. You add more educational time, you're not only going to break the cycle of poverty, the income divide or income inequality in America is really what is a diploma divide. And if you're going to actually make an impact on one of the most pressing issues, I actually think those educational reforms that are done at the local level are transformative to having a more inclusive economic growth where everybody gets a chance to be part of a winning circle.
I know you dealt with mayors from other big cities, even across state lines, that impacted. How much do you almost have to do that? I know in our area you see poaching now across state borders from major corporations. One's offering tax abatements where the other one's trying to hold the line, and there's a cannibalization of certain sorts. How much of there is infighting against people that should have common interests?
Well, we're all competitive, but I'll give you an example. Chicago for 7 years led the country in corporate relocations. We had ConAgra leave Omaha, Nebraska, come to the city. We had GE Healthcare leave London, make Chicago its home. Why? What I call the 5 T's. Incredible talent, incredible training, incredible transportation, incredible technology, and transparency, the 5 T's. If you do those fundamentals right, corporations big, medium, and small, will pick your city. And to me, those are the greatest incentives. It's not whether you get a credit here or steal that. Do you have kind of the long-term institutional support? So Chicago has more universities than any other city except for Boston. And we have one of the highest of the 7 largest cities. We have the highest college-educated population. That's a big, big incentive. I told a company that was asking for a particular tax break, I said, I'd give it to you because I'm competitive, but I'm going to give you advice I'd give the president. It's not worth it. By the time we're done, you're going to get bloodied up asking for it. It was a very wealthy public company. And in fact, I said, the biggest benefit I can give you is the best trained, best educated, most motivated workforce. And that is the incentive company and CEOs are looking for.
I get that mayors love some of the autonomy where you don't have to deal with some of the BS that you would at the state capitals, let alone D.C. But violence.
Well, there's plenty of that going around in local government.
I hear you, but it's not as bad. To that end, you made some real gains before you left with violence that obviously, unfortunately, was synonymous for a window there for Chicago and still is a real problem. What could Springfield or, God forbid, Washington have done to help you address that problem that you either didn't bother or ran up against in trying to deal with it?
Well, a couple things. One is, I would just say to you that our violent crime, reduced in the last 3 years by 40% after a real major increase. Now, Chicago was in the light. Now multiple cities are following what I call our proactive policing, using data to be strategic. So Chicago's being a leader rather than a laggard in that area. It would have been helpful as the person who, for President Clinton, passed the assault weapon ban and the 5-day waiting period known as the Brady Bill, if we had national gun legislation. Last year, just give you one statistic, Chicago seized a record 10,000 guns off the streets, our police officers. Yet you would never say there was a shortage of guns. So comprehensive gun legislation as it relates to background checks would really have been helpful. But too often, and I'm even doing it, this issue gets reduced to one thing. It'd be great to have comprehensive gun control legislation. Great to have comprehensive reform as it relates to returning citizens so they have skills and education when they're serving their time before they come back. And if they don't have those, you're going to have a recurring problem rather than somebody who's on the road to recovery. Economic opportunity and hope that replaces despair. A real chance at education, because I actually believe one of the more important things to fighting crime long term is if somebody has an education, they have the tools to succeed, and if you're going to succeed, you're not going to do something stupid. So it's not a singular issue. There's a criminal justice piece to this. There's an opportunity versus despair piece to this. There's a moral family piece to this, and making sure our children are raised growing up with not only the support, the love, but also the values of knowing right from wrong. And there's clear consequences for doing wrong and using a gun. So to say one thing actually misses the complexity of the problem. I know that's not, the question is a fair question, but you have to look at it holistically from the criminal justice side, the public safety side, the educational side, the economic opportunity side, and also the value system.
Rahm Emanuel, thank you for the time.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.